The cafeteria of Sector 9 Academy fell silent the moment Kira walked in, not the comfortable kind of silence. The kind that crawls under your scales and makes your gills twitch. The kind that says, something is about to go very, very wrong. I am Ven, a Quilarian scholar from the gentle moons of Thessara, and I had been observing this human girl for 3 standard cycles now. My thesis on cultural integration was supposed to be straightforward. Document how different species adapt to unified education systems, submit to the council, collect my credentials, and move on with my unremarkable academic career. That plan died the day I met Kira Lansing. She moved through the crowd like water around stones, her brown eyes scanning the room with an intensity that made my tertiary eyelids flutter nervously. Humans always looked like that, I had learned. Alert, aware, like prey animals that somehow became apex predators and never quite shook the habits of either. Hey, Dirtworlder, a voice called out. Smooth, cruel, practiced, Theron. A Calvaxian noble with too much money and not enough sense. His blue skin shimmered as he stepped into Kira's path, flanked by his usual collection of sycophants. Tall, proud, physically imposing by most species standards. Most species except humans, apparently. Kira stopped, tilted her head. That is the best you have got. Dirtworlder, I have heard better insults from my 8-year-old cousin, and he still thinks butts are the peak of comedy. A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. My translation implant struggled with the colloquialism, but the tone was unmistakable. Mockery, sharp and unafraid. Theron's facial ridges darkened. Anger or embarrassment. The physiological response was identical in Calvaxians. You think you are funny, human? Your planet is barely past its industrial revolution. You only got space-worthy vessels, because the Council took pity on your primitive civilization. Oh, you looked up the human history file. Kira set her meal tray down on a nearby table with exaggerated care. How thorough. Did you also read the part about our gravity? Our atmospheric pressure, the fact that we evolved alongside predators that would eat your entire family tree for breakfast and still be hungry for lunch? The cafeteria had gone from silent to utterly frozen. Even the serving drones had stopped their mechanical routines. I should have intervened. As the assigned cultural liaison, it was literally my job to prevent interspecies conflicts, but scientific curiosity rooted me in place. What was she doing? Theron laughed. It sounded forced, big words from someone who weighs less than my luggage. You humans are fragile, weak. Your bones break from simple falls. Your skin tears on contact with minor abrasives. You are made of tissue paper and empty threats. Tissue paper, Kira repeated slowly. You know what? You are absolutely right, Theron. We are fragile. Terrifyingly, laughably fragile. We die from infections you would not even notice. We can choke on our own food. Our own bodies can randomly decide to kill us with rogue cells or chemical imbalances. We are a biological disaster on 2 legs. She stepped closer. Theron, despite having 30 centimeters and 20 kilograms on her, stepped back. But here is the fun part, Kira continued, her voice dropping to something that made my survival instincts scream. We evolved on a planet that was actively trying to murder us every single day. And we did not just survive. We thrived. We conquered. We looked at a world full of things with bigger teeth, stronger bodies, and deadlier venom, and we said, not today. So, when you, someone from a planet where the most dangerous animal is probably a particularly aggressive houseplant, try to intimidate me, it is adorable. Really, I want to pinch your cheeks. Theron's hand shot out. Fast by Calvaxian standards. Glacially slow by what I would soon learn were human standards. Kira caught his wrist mid-strike, did not block it, did not dodge it, just caught it, like plucking a fruit from a low-hanging branch. Oh no, she said with mock concern. Did you just try to hit me? In front of all these witnesses? With the security drones recording everything? Theron, buddy, I thought you were supposed to be the smart kind of bully. She released his wrist. Theron stumbled backward, cradling his arm. His expression cycled through confusion, pain, and something that looked suspiciously like fear. "Anyone else want to test the Dirtworlder today?" Kira asked the room. Her tone was cheerful, friendly even. The disconnect was terrifying. "No? Excellent. I will be over at table 7 if anyone wants to actually make friends instead of whatever this sad display was supposed to be." She picked up her tray and walked away. The crowd parted like she carried a force field. I found myself following her. Professional interest, I told myself. Not the desperate need to understand what I had just witnessed. "May I join you?" I asked when I reached her table. Kira looked up from her meal. Something gray and gelatinous that passed for protein in the academy commissary. She poked it with her utensil. "Is this supposed to be food or a science experiment?" I genuinely cannot tell. "Both, potentially," I admitted, settling into the seat across from her. "I am Ven, Cultural Integration Department." "So you are the one writing reports about how poorly I am adapting," she smiled. It reached her eyes. Predator eyes, I noted. Forward-facing. Binocular vision. Evolution's gift to hunters. "Go ahead. Ask what you want to ask. How did you do that?" "Theron is trained in Calvaxian martial arts. He should have been able to overpower you easily." "Should have," Kira agreed. She finally took a bite of the gray protein, grimaced, swallowed anyway. "But he trained in 0.8 gravity. I was born in 1. His bones are hollow to help with his planet's high oxygen atmosphere. Mine are dense enough to survive impacts that would shatter his entire skeleton. His muscles are optimized for endurance in a low-stress environment. Mine are built for a world where taking a nap in the wrong place means becoming lunch for something with more teeth than brain cells." She leaned forward. "Want to know the really funny part? I am not even particularly strong by human standards. I am a 16-year-old girl who spends most of her time reading books and avoiding gym class. There are humans who could throw Theron through a wall without breaking a sweat. There are humans who run ultramarathons for fun, who climb mountains that would kill most species just from the altitude, who dive to ocean depths that would crush your body like an empty beverage container." "That is horrifying," I said quietly. "Yeah." Kira took another reluctant bite of her food. "Welcome to humanity. We are a disaster species that refused to go extinct, and now we are your problem. The galaxy is going to have so much fun figuring out what to do with us." Over the following days, I watched Kira navigate the social hellscape of academy life with a grace that belied the violence simmering beneath her surface. She made friends with the outcasts. The Vrel, who was too anxious to speak in class. The Eularian with the visible genetic mutation. The Terconians who were too poor to afford the social climbing games the wealthy students played. She helped them with homework, shared her meal credits, defended them when necessary. The bullies learned to give her space. Theron, however, did not learn quickly enough. It happened in the training gymnasium during mixed-species physical education. A disaster of a class where the instructors tried to find exercises that would not either bore the high-gravity species or kill the low-gravity ones. Today's brilliant solution was obstacle courses, scaled to individual capabilities. In theory, everyone competed on an equal playing field. In practice, it was a humiliation factory for anyone who did not fit the ideal athletic profile. "Lansing," the instructor called out. "You are up next." Kira approached the starting line. The course ahead looked simple. Climbing walls, balance beams, strength tests, timed for performance. "This should be entertaining," Theron said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Let us watch the human fail at basic physical tasks." Kira stretched her arms above her head, rolled her shoulders. "Ven," she called to me in the observation area. "Time me. Will you? I want documentation for your thesis." The starting buzzer sounded. What happened next violated several laws of physics as I understood them. Kira ran. Not jogged. Sprinted at a speed that blurred her form. She hit the climbing wall and scaled it like gravity was a suggestion rather than a law. Her hands found holds that should not have supported her weight. Her feet pushed off surfaces that should have crumbled. The balance beam section, she ran across it. Full speed. No hesitation. The strength test, designed to challenge species with 3 times human muscle density. She completed it in 12 seconds. When she crossed the finish line, the gymnasium was silent again. That horrible, uncomfortable silence that followed her everywhere. The instructor checked their data pad 3 times. That cannot be correct. The record for this course is held by a Thoraxian heavyweight champion. You just beat it by 17 seconds. Cool, Kira said, barely breathing hard. Can I go again? That was actually kind of fun. Theron stood frozen at his starting position. His blue skin had gone pale, almost gray. Still think I am weak? Kira asked him. Not mocking this time, genuinely curious. Still think humans are fragile? Because here is what you do not understand about my species, Theron. We are fragile. Absurdly, ridiculously fragile, but we are also stubborn enough to drag our broken, bleeding bodies up mountains just to see what is on the other side. We are crazy enough to strap ourselves to controlled explosions and shoot ourselves into space. We are insane enough to befriend the predators that used to hunt us. She walked toward him, slowly. You bully people because you think you are strong. But strength is not about how much you can lift or how hard you can hit. It is about how much you can endure and keep going anyway. And on that scale, humans are undefeated. The course was malfunctioning, Theron said desperately. She cheated somehow. Then go, Kira gestured to the course. Beat my time. Prove me wrong. I will wait. Theron looked at the course. Looked at Kira. Looked at the crowd of students now watching with undisguised interest. He walked away. The second time is always worse than the first. Humiliation compounds, festers, turns into something darker. I should have predicted what came next. Should have filed the proper reports, requested intervention. But I was too fascinated by my subject to recognize the danger. The attack came during night cycle, when the dormitory halls were supposed to be empty except for automated cleaning units and the occasional insomniac student cramming for exams. I was in my quarters reviewing footage for my thesis when my datapad exploded with emergency alerts. Medical bay. Code violet. Multiple injuries. Human student involved. My hearts, all 3 of them, seized in my chest. I ran. Actually ran. Something my species typically avoids because our respiratory system is frankly terrible at processing that much oxygen demand at once. By the time I reached the medical wing, I was wheezing like a malfunctioning air filtration unit. The scene was chaos. 6 students on medical beds. Theron and 5 of his friends. Various injuries. Broken bones. Lacerations. 1 unconscious. Medical staff swarming like insects on a corpse. Their equipment beeping and chirping in a discordant symphony of biological distress. And Kira, standing in the corner. Completely unharmed. Hands zip-tied behind her back. 2 security officers flanking her like she was a bomb that might detonate at any moment. What happened? I demanded, my voice still raspy from the run. She attacked them, one officer said. A Melvorn, I think. Hard to tell when your vision is still spotty from oxygen deprivation. Unprovoked assault. Witnesses confirm she threw the first strike. That is incorrect, said a small voice. Everyone turned. Pip, the anxious Vrel who Kira had befriended, stood near the doorway, trembling, but present. They cornered her, all 6 of them. They had shock batons. I saw it on the corridor cameras. I already sent the footage to campus security mainframe. The officer's expression shifted. Annoyance mixed with something that looked like resignation. That changes the context considerably. You think? Kira said dryly. Her shirt was torn. Blood on her knuckles. Not her blood, I realized. 6 against 1. Illegal weapons. Premeditated ambush in an isolated area. But sure, I definitely started it by existing while human. The medical staff finally stabilized their patients. One doctor, a kindly Fossarian named Kelm, who had treated half the student body for everything from study stress to explosive diarrhea, approached us. She has no serious injuries, Kelm reported, sounding baffled. Bruising consistent with impact bucks. Minor abrasions. Elevated heart rate and adrenaline, but that is already normalizing. Meanwhile, Her attackers have 2 fractured orbital bones, 1 dislocated shoulder, 3 broken fingers, multiple contusions, and 1 severe concussion. What in the name of the founders happened? She fought back, I said quietly. Against 6 opponents with weapons. And 1. Kelm stared at me, then at Kira, then back at me. That should not be possible. Welcome to my thesis, I muttered. The investigation took 3 days. 3 days of testimony, camera footage analysis, and increasingly panicked administrators, realizing they had allowed a pre-dawn assault on a student from a species they fundamentally did not understand. I spent those 3 days with Kira. Not officially, I was supposed to remain neutral for my research. But scientific objectivity is worthless if your subject ends up dead or expelled because nobody bothered to advocate for them. We sat in my quarters on the 2nd day, drinking something that tasted like sadness and caffeine. The Academy called it tea. I called it proof that the universe has a cruel sense of humor. Why did you come here? I asked her. To this academy, I mean. You had known it would be difficult. Kira stared into her cup like it held answers to questions she had not asked yet. My parents are xenobiologists. They spent their whole lives studying alien species, pushing for humanity's integration into the galactic community. They believe we have something to offer, something valuable beyond just being the scary Deathworlders everyone whispers about. Do you believe that? She was quiet for a long moment. Outside my window, the station's artificial sky cycled through its programmed subtent. Oranges and purples that never quite looked real because they were not supposed to. Just close enough to comfort species who needed circadian rhythm cues. I want to, Kira finally said. I want to believe we can be more than our worst instincts, that we can take all that violence and aggression and survival drive and channel it into something good. Something useful. But then people like Theron happen, and I remember that fear and hate are universal languages. Not just human problems. You showed remarkable restraint, I told her. You could have killed them. The medical reports confirm that. Your strikes were precise, controlled. You neutralized threats without causing permanent damage. That is not instinct. That is training, discipline. My mom is a 3rd-degree black belt, Kira said, with a slight smile. She started teaching me self-defense when I was 6. Not because Earth is dangerous, although it is, but because she knew I would face situations like this. Being different. Being feared. She wanted me to be able to protect myself without becoming the monster people expected. Your mother sounds wise. She is terrifying, Kira corrected. But in a good way. The kind of terrifying that makes you want to be better. Do better. You know, I did not, actually. My own parents were academics who communicated primarily through published papers and the occasional disapproving Hume when I chose a research path they considered beneath our family's reputation. But I appreciated the sentiment. The tribunal hearing was held in the Grand Assembly chamber, which was deeply unnecessary for what should have been a standard disciplinary review, but absolutely perfect for the political theater unfolding around this case. Human integration was controversial. Half the council species thought Earth should never have been contacted. Too violent, too aggressive, too much potential for disruption. The other half saw economic and military opportunities. A species that could thrive in high gravity, toxic atmospheres, and extreme temperatures was valuable, exploitable, if you were particularly cynical about it. Kira's case became a proxy war for that larger debate. I watched from the observation gallery as she stood before the tribunal. Small, alone, dressed in the standard academy uniform that somehow looked like battle armor on her. Theron and his co-conspirators sat in the accused section as well. Their families had hired representation, expensive advocates who argued about cultural misunderstandings and youthful mistakes. The kind of defense that money can buy and justice rarely delivers. Miss Lansing, the chief arbiter, began, an ancient Quellan who had seen 1,000 cycles of students and probably remembered none of them. You stand accused of excessive force in response to an altercation. How do you plead? Self-defense, Kira said clearly. I responded to an illegal assault with the minimum force necessary to ensure my survival. Minimum force, one of Theron's advocates scoffed. You put 6 students in medical care. One may have permanent cognitive damage from the concussion you inflicted. That is minimum force. Yes, Kira said simply. Because all 6 of them walked out of that hallway alive. On my planet, an attack like that, 6 armed assailants in an isolated location, would justify lethal force. I could have killed them, easily. Instead, I disabled them and waited for security. That is restraint. The chamber erupted. Shouts. Arguments. Several council members looked physically ill at the casual way she discussed killing. Order! The chief arbiter's voice cut through the chaos. Miss Lansing, are you admitting you possess the capability and knowledge to kill sentient beings? I am admitting I am human, Kira replied. Every human has that capability. It is part of our evolutionary heritage. But capability is not intent. I came here to learn, to build bridges between species, to prove that humans can be more than the monsters you fear we are. Instead, I was attacked for being different, for being strong in ways that make you uncomfortable. And when I defended myself using the restraint and discipline my culture values, I am the one on trial. She looked directly at Theron. He flinched. I am not sorry I survived, Kira continued. I am not sorry I refused to be a victim, and if that makes me unsuitable for your academy, for your vision of civilized society, then maybe your civilization needs to examine why it protects bullies and punishes those who dare to stand against them. The silence that followed was different from before. Not uncomfortable, contemplative. Dozens of species represented in that chamber, all processing what they had just heard. Pipe stood up in the gallery. Small, trembling, terrified. She saved me, the Vrel said, voice barely above a whisper. Last cycle, I was having a panic attack in the library. Could not breathe. Thought I was dying. Everyone walked past me. But Kira stopped, talked me through it, stayed until I could function again. She is the only person in this entire station who treated me like I mattered. Others started standing. The Eularian with the mutation. The Terconian scholarship students. Even some species I did not recognize. She tutored me in quantum mechanics for free. She stood up to the seniors who were hazing my brother. She shared her meal credits when I ran out during exam week. She is the reason I did not drop out. The testimonials kept coming. A flood of voices from the students nobody paid attention to, the ones who existed in the spaces between notice and neglect. I found myself standing as well. I have been studying Miss Lansing for 3 cycles, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, for my thesis on cultural integration. In that time, I have documented 17 instances of her intervening to help other students, 0 instances of her initiating aggression, multiple instances of her walking away from confrontation when she easily could have escalated. She is not the threat this tribunal should be concerned about. She is the solution. The chief arbiter looked at the mountain of evidence now stacked against Theron's claims. Testimony, camera footage, medical reports that proved the attack was premeditated and brutal. This tribunal finds Theron Kelvarix and his co-conspirators guilty of assault with intent to cause serious harm. They are expelled effective immediately and banned from all council educational facilities. Furthermore, their families will face civil penalties for attempting to bribe academy officials, which yes, we discovered during the investigation. Did you really think we would not notice the suspicious fund transfers? Theron's advocate opened their mouth, closed it, opened it again, looked like a fish drowning in air. As for Miss Lansing, the chief arbiter continued. Not only are all charges dismissed, but this tribunal formally apologizes for the security failures that allowed the attack to occur. You should never have been put in that position. We have much to learn about properly integrating Deathworld species into our educational systems. Kira nodded once. Graceful, in victory. No gloating, no triumph, just quiet acceptance. That night, the cafeteria was different. Students who had previously given Kira a wide berth now actively sought her table. Conversation flowed. Laughter happened. The rigid social hierarchies that had defined academy life began to crack and shift. I sat with her and the growing collection of misfits she had somehow turned into a community. So, I said, pulling out my datapad. I need to finish my thesis. Any final thoughts on human integration into galactic society? Kira picked at her food. Still gray. Still gelatinous. Still probably a crime against culinary arts across multiple species. Tell them we are not the monsters they think we are. But we are not defenseless victims either. We are complicated, contradictory, capable of incredible violence and incredible compassion, sometimes in the same breath. The galaxy does not get to choose just one side of humanity. They get all of us, messy and broken and beautiful and terrifying. And if they can accept that, actually accept it, then maybe we have a chance at building something better together. That is going in the thesis, I said, typing frantically. Then? Kira asked after a moment. Yes, thank you for standing up at the tribunal. You did not have to do that. Yes, I did, I replied, because that is what friends do, and despite my better judgment and every survival instinct my species evolved, I consider you a friend. Kira smiled. Genuine. Warm. The kind of smile that made you forget about the predator eyes and the Deathworld heritage and the casual discussions of lethal capability. Friends, she agreed. Even though I am a disaster species that refused to go extinct. Especially because of that, I said. Across the cafeteria, I watched the future unfold. Humans and aliens learning to coexist. Not despite their differences, but because of them. Understanding that strength comes in many forms. That survival is about adaptation, not domination. It would not be easy. There would be more Therons, more fear, more misunderstanding, but there would also be more Kiras. More bridges built. More voices standing up for what is right. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The Academy night cycle completed its rotation. Artificial stars appeared in the projected sky. Somewhere in the distance, ships departed for distant worlds carrying cargo and passengers, and stories about the human girl who taught an entire station what it meant to be strong. My thesis would be published in 6 cycles. It would win academic awards, spark debates, change policy. But the real victory was sitting across from me, eating terrible cafeteria food and laughing at something one of the Terconian students said. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same.